Good day, everyone. Trust you're doing well today.
Today we're talking about top Nigerian dividend stocks for the next 5 years. Starting this year, 2026 to 2031. Now, have you noticed something interesting about the Nigerian stock market? The stocks that make the loudest headlines are not always the stocks that make people the most money. In fact, some of the biggest wealth builders on the Nigeria exchange are often the disciplined companies that quietly pay dividend year after year. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. Because if your goal is not just to chase quick gains in the stock market, but to build long-term wealth between now and 2031, then there is a few Nigerian stocks that deserve very serious attention. But here's the thing, most investors make a mistake. What they do is they look at a stock paying a very high dividend today and immediately assume it's a great investment. Unfortunately, that's not how wealth is built. All right. So a company can pay a huge dividend this year and struggle badly, next year. So instead of asking which stock has the highest dividend right now, a better question is which companies are most likely to keep paying and growing their dividend over the next 5 years. That simple shift in thinking and mentality changes everything. Now, when I looked at the Nigerian market through that lens, something very interesting appeared. A small group of companies kept showing up again and again, not because they had the highest yields today, all right, but because they have strong businesses, growing profit, and a good chance of surviving whatever Nigeria throws at them over the next 5 years. And the first company on the list is probably not a surprise: GT. Okay, now if you've been investing in Nigeria for a while, you have probably heard people talk about GTCO almost like it's a machine. And honestly, there's a reason for that. GTCO has built a reputation for making money consistently, controlling costs well, and rewarding shareholders. But what makes GTCO especially interesting is that it's no longer just a traditional bank. Now, as more Nigerians move towards digital banking, mobile payments, and online financial services, GTCO is positioning itself to benefit from that shift. Think about it. Nigeria still has millions of people who are either underbanked or completely outside the banking system. That means the growth opportunity is still huge. And that's why many investors see GTCO as one of the strongest dividend stocks on the entire stock exchange. Now, here is where things get interesting. The second stock is another bank. Which bank? Zenith Bank. And on the surface, GTCO and Zenith may look very similar. Both are profitable. Both have strong dividend records. Both are among the biggest names in Nigeria banking. But guess what? They actually play this banking game differently. GTCO is often seen as more aggressive in innovation. Zenith is known for discipline, like brutal discipline. Zenith has spent years building a very strong corporate banking business and maintaining a conservative approach. In simple terms, Zenith often focuses on stability. And for dividend investors, stability matters a whole lot. Because when economic conditions become difficult, stable companies tend to survive better. And that's one reason Zenith remains one of the favorite income stock for many, Nigeria investors. But now let's move away from banking for a moment because concentrating too much in one sector can be very, very dangerous. And this brings us to what may be the most interesting company on the list today. The next one is Seplat Energy. Now, when many people hear energy company, they immediately think about oil prices. And yes, oil matters. But Seplat's bigger story may actually be natural gas. Look at Nigeria today. The country needs more electricity. Industries need more energy. Power generation needs more fuel. And natural gas is becoming increasingly important in solving those problems. All right. So this creates a very powerful long-term opportunity. If Nigeria continues investing in energy infrastructure, Seplat could benefit from multiple directions at the same time. That's why many investors see Seplat as a real combination of dividend income and growth potential. Of course, there is one big risk: oil prices. Now, if global oil prices fall sharply, energy companies can come under pressure. So Seplat may be more volatile than GTCO or Zenith Bank, but the upside could also be much larger. Now, here is a question many investors never ask. What if the future winners are not banks or oil companies? What if they are companies benefiting from Nigeria's growing digital economy? Now, that's where MTN Nigeria comes in. Think about what is happening across the country. More smartphones, more internet users, more digital payment, more online businesses, more data consumption. In fact, you're actually using data to watch this video right now. So every year, Nigeria use more data services than they did the year before. And MTN sits right in the middle of that trend. In many ways, MTN is not just a telecom company anymore. It's also a digital service company. It also connects to fintech growth. It also connects to internet growth. It's connected to mobile money growth as well. And all those trends could continue for years, which is why MTN remains one of the strongest long-term candidates on the Nigeria exchange. Now let's talk about something that most investors completely overlook: agriculture. Now, when people discuss Nigeria dividend stocks, they usually focus on banks, sometimes telecom, sometimes oil. But very few people pay enough attention to, companies like Presco and Okomu Oil. These businesses benefit from something very simple. People need food, right? Population grow continuously. Now, knowing that fact, right, demand for edible oil will continue to grow. And Nigeria still imports significant amount of agricultural products. That creates opportunities for local, producers. What's interesting about Presco and Okomo is that they give investors exposure to a complete different part of the economy. So instead of relying only on banks or energy companies, you are adding another engine of growth to your portfolio. And that diversification can become very valuable when one, sector struggles. Now, here is something I discovered when looking deeper into, the market. I realized that many investors think that they are diversified when they are actually not. For example, imagine someone owns GTCO and Zenith. At first glance, that looks diversified, but both companies are still banks. They are affected by many of the same risks, such as, interest rates, regulations, economic growth, credit conditions. So if something hurts the banking sector, both positions may be affected. That's why diversification is not just about owning multiple stocks. It's about owning different type of businesses. And that's one reason a portfolio containing banking, energy, telecom, and agriculture can be very stronger than a portfolio made entirely of banks. Now let's talk about what could happen over the next 5 years. If Nigeria experiences improving economic conditions, stable policies, and stronger growth, then companies like GTCO, Seplat, and MTN could perform extremely well. Now, if conditions remain mixed, which is probably the most realistic outcome, then strong companies will likely continue growing, while weaker companies struggle. And if we get a severe economic shock, something else happens. The companies with the strongest balance sheet, strongest cash flow, and strongest competitive position become even, more important. That's why quality matters, especially when you're investing in 5 years or longer. So after I took my time, right, to look into dividend history, business quality, growth opportunities, and long-term positioning, which companies stand out the most? Now, for dividend reliability, GTCO and Zenith remains among the strongest names. But for mixed dividend and growth, Seplat becomes very attractive. Now, for exposure to Nigerian digital future, MTN deserves serious attention. And for agricultural growth, Presco continues to stand out. So if someone forced me to choose only, just three Nigerian dividend stocks to hold until 2031, my short list will still be simple: GTCO, Zenith Bank, and Seplat Energy. Not because they are guaranteed winners. You should realize that nothing in investing is guaranteed, but because they combine something that is very hard to find, which is strong businesses, strong earnings, strong dividend record, and real opportunities for future growth. And in the long run, those are usually the companies that create the most wealth. Now, the investors who build serious wealth are often not the ones chasing the hottest stocks every month, right? They are usually the ones who find quality businesses, stay patient, collect dividends, and allow time to do the heavy lifting. Now, think of Warren Buffett. Yeah, great guy. And that may be the most important investing lesson of all.
If you gain value from this video, please like and subscribe so you do not miss my next video. All right. Have a nice day. Bye.